Gretchen left her mom's place in the city, went halfway around the fucking world, went to live with her dad and his new wife, and a half-sister that she doesn't like at a resort in the French Alps, where cuckoo shit's going on. It's cuckoo, 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 cuckoo. Cuckoo was written and directed by Tillman Singer, distributed by Neon Studios, and stars Hunter Schafer as Gretchen, who's a 17-year-old American girl who has her life uprooted like a tree out of the ground and thrown over there. The storm says, you're going to go over there now. By over there, we mean pretty goddamn far away, because her father, his new wife, Beth, played by the gorgeous Jessica Henwick, who was in the Royal Hotel and is a very, very terrific actress, and also just a fucking knockout. Yeah, they basically are saying, oh, great, this job's going to go great. And also the half-sister, Alma, who basically can't talk, but she can communicate text to talk. And as long as her battery doesn't run out, the kids and their damn loud rock music and smartphones are nah. Nevertheless, basically, as long as she has her device working, it's all good. And everything's fine, except Dan Stevens' Herr Koenig takes a liking to Gretchen. If you want to know who Dan Stevens is, those are fucking onions. The guy from Abigail. That's him. And he says, Gretchen, I think that you have a bright future. I want you to feel welcome. Come work at my hotel that I have just nearby. And don't worry, you won't have to work the late shift. And if you ever do, I'll come get you. Don't travel out at night. You don't want to travel out at night, because then you're going to get quite a fright. And then you're going to get somebody with glowing eyes that's going to tear you apart. And nothing's going to matter, because you're going to find out why this person is doing this. And you're going to be torn to bits when the emotional damage is done, and it will chew you up. And you think that it's done? Oh no, we've got some crazy eaters. Okay, basically I might have spoiled a little bit there, or maybe I didn't. Maybe I didn't. Woo! Had to do some song references here. Had to have a little bit of fun, because now I want to talk about Cuckoo. So this got quite the marketing campaign, because Neon Studios, between Immaculate, Longlegs, and Cuckoo, has basically decided to just throw their face and their entire being right into the proverbial teat that is horror. And after the last few years and upcoming projects that I imagine they will no doubt market like crazy, they are really trying to become the masters of horror movies that not a lot of big studios would take a chance on. Between A24 and Neon Studios, they're trying to put a different spin on horror. And this got quite the marketing campaign, as I said. A lot of early feedback from, like critics and even some audience members at some film festivals. Is wild, blood-soaked fun. It was bonkers and crazy. It was all kinds of this. It was all that in a bag of chips. It was a nice throwback to the 60s, 70s, and maybe even 80s Italian movies and European movies, where it's like it plays with sound and everything. That's actually one of the prevalent things about this. Sound that messes with your mind and makes you go crazy. Let's go nuts. And let's have these sounds that make scenes repeat. And let's go. So, yeah, basically weird shit is going on here. It's pretty obvious that there's strange stuff going on. Even with the opening scene, it tries to set the tone about what's going to happen. And from there, after we find out a little bit about Gretchen and the fact she had a pretty good relationship with her mom and doesn't have the best relationship with her half-sister, it's basically, I think, down to the fact she feels she's weird. And, anybody that sees one of their parents remarry probably isn't going to be the happiest. Well, then that all gets kind of eventually thrown out the window a little bit once this movie starts to kick into gear. I will say there are a couple neat little scenes. The aforementioned bike scene where somebody's pursuing her. And then there are a couple, nice atmospheric shots. And there's, a few crumbs of decent ideas here. The problem is the plot is paper thin. A lot of the characters are really, really thin, barely one note. And the movie seems to be trying to say, we're just going to be bonkers, 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 bonkers. Believe us, we're bonkers. They're trying too hard. They're trying too hard to be bonkers. And in trying too hard, it doesn't feel like they're trying at all. I'm not going to lie to you guys. I really didn't find this movie scary at all. There were a couple decent little gore scenes. But for every scene where it seemed like they were going to just go full-bore nuts, They would then pull back and we just slam right to another goddamn scene. That seemed to be edited with goddamn garden shears, and I don't understand it. Was that something Neon Studios did? Is there an unrated cut? Is there a cut that might make me think that the characters aren't absolutely shit? Because even Hunter Schafer's Gretchen isn't really worth rooting for. And I like Hunter Schafer. And if you have a problem, by the way, with the fact that Hunter Schafer is apparently a trans woman, I did not know this until I found out recently. But fuck you if you have a problem with trans people living as they are. That being said, she had a brief role in Kinds of Kindness. And actually, I thought did pretty good there. I don't know why they advertised her as being a major cast member when she wasn't in there that long. But then you have aforementioned Dan Stevens. Jessica Henwick, by the way, I just want to praise once again. Really, really fucking terrific. Also, a couple other cast members that I want to shout. There's a cop, Henry Jan B. That's just what I'm going to call him because I'd probably screw up his last name. There's Greta Fernandez as Trixie, who has a very nice look to her. And there's a bit character, Ed, Astrid Burgess Fresbay, who I think really does look nice. And I think actually I would like to see more stuff that she's in. There's elements that could work, but this just ends up being, honestly, excruciatingly dull and just plotting and not very good. And for what was marketed as something bonkers and fun, it doesn't turn out to really be any of that. I mean, sure, stuff occurs. The problem is you can pretty much figure out where this movie's going. And none of it really, the title kind of gives it away how it's actually going to go. And the issue is even the villains, the villains, just not very good. Any of the bad people, they just kind of stand there and nobody's really in any element of danger. Because again, we just get the hard Eddie and then we just go right to the next goddamn scene. Also, the ending's kind of muted and oh, okay, that's it. So I'm going to get into spoilers. It's in theaters if you want to check it out, or be on streaming soon. So that's all I got to say. Let's just get into spoilers. 3, 2, 1, ha! Spoilers. Okay, so in the very beginning, there of course was rap, as our Lord and Savior Dr. Dre once said. And we have some people arguing in German while a girl panics and runs out the goddamn door. And then we get a phone call to the guy in the house where it says, you can't let that experiment get away. And yeah, okay, there we go. We could just, make some comments there. But let's just, resist those and talk about the fact that Gretchen ends up going through it a whole bunch. She does eventually come around to liking Alma because she realizes that Alma isn't a bad person. Alma does mean well. But there's the sound design and the crazy stuff where it can mess with people's heads and it can cause them to get violent because of certain tones play on people's heads. And also the fact that these experiments, by the way, involve, basically the idea of cuckoo. You have the cuckoo birds, how they, get their offspring born. All that, they're basically blood-sucking parasites as birds. And that's pretty much the thing here. Instead of women being impregnated by their husbands, they're impregnated by weird creatures with weird eyes and stuff like that. Like cuckoo humans. That's pretty much it right there. And there's more than one. At least it's implied there's more than one. And that this experimentation has been going on for a while. And after Gretchen gets hurt, she actually goes off on her second or third shift with Ed, Astrid. It's a gay relationship. Oh no, the sky is falling. It's very, very quick, by the way. But their car crashes because after getting hurt and being chased a little bit earlier on her bike, then she gets in the goddamn car with Ed after taking money from the goddamn register. And they take off because she wants to go back home. Well, then they end up swerving to avoid the weird cuckoo lady. And then Ed gets dragged away, I think. But then scenes repeat. We get this thing where the sounds will mess up. We get a little bit of an earlier scene where before Alma attacks Gretchen, where, we get this repeated stuff. She's listening to music and everything and then takes out these headphones and Alma's having a bit of a seizure. What the hell's going on here? And then we have that scene repeat, those few moments repeat a few times. And then Alma attacks, and then it turns out Alma actually is having a seizure. Because it turns out Alma is actually one of these experiments. This whole thing of, the parents having the honeymoon. having the honeymoon there and returning after so many years. It's because Alma needs to become one of them. The idea is just to breed, create new life, and create a new form of life. At least that's the way the movie's telling it. I mean, if the movie's trying for a deeper message, it didn't fucking succeed. Gretchen basically goes through a whole bunch of stuff, isn't treated well by her dad at all. In fact, yes, she stole money from the goddamn thing, and she shouldn't have done that, especially in a foreign country. You probably could get in trouble mightily for that. But also, the dad just seems more concerned with Alma and with the fact that Beth is going to start getting sick as well. Because the idea is Beth is going to become, one of these creatures. Because it's all a process to do that. The movie leaves us with more questions than answers, while also not presenting any reason why anybody would want to pursue the answers. And I don't mind just, things being thrown out there. But there's got to be somewhat of a purpose. If you're just going to throw weird imagery and somebody with weird skull eyes and stuff like that and just do weird shit like that, it's not really going to register as much as you think. I'm like, the creature's doing weird shit like this, like when it sharts out like some like placenta stuff or birthing stuff and shoves it in a woman's vag. We don't actually ever see that, but it's implied. And yeah, if you don't, turn over, if you're not on your side, you could choke on your own goddamn vomit. Like there's this cop, Henry, who he lost his wife because his wife was experimented on, and now he's a cop that's a rogue cop that's trying to take down all this. And Dan Stevens isn't a very good villain. He's a good actor, but he's not a very good villain here. He's a better villain than Abigail. But he does have one funny line where he says, "I'm giving you a chance to be of great use in our quest for preservation. I see nothing has changed with German experimentation in the last 80 to 90 years. Am I going to hell for that? Oh yeah, but I don't care." Yeah. We just get this stuff going on with, Gretchen trying to piece this shit together. And then eventually there's a showdown in the hospital where she ends up getting these medical, filing cabinet things pushed over on her, like the library scene in The Mummy, just without the incredibly gorgeous Rachel Weisz. You just have the nice up-and-coming Hunter Schafer, who, by the way, does have a good look, and I wish her nothing but the absolute best. But Alma basically keeps suffering seizures. Alma is one of these experiments, and maybe she's the best experiment. She just needs to be worked with. And then she's going to flip it and reverse it by reversing, the polarity and maybe turning the tables on Herr Koenig. I guess, maybe. Basically, him and Henry get in a shootout, because why not at this point? Gretchen basically convinces Alma, look, it's going to be fine. Don't worry. It's going to be fine. I'm going to protect you. Just suddenly, I guess. I mean, she has, one scene later on after not liking her. Later on after, being injured at the hospital where she does some sign language thing, and I guess they're just happy, to communicate. I don't know. I don't know. I was paying attention in this movie, just pretty much bored me to goddamn tears. There were 5 people in the screen I was in, and before halfway, there were 3 people, and I think the other 2 fell asleep. So I think I was the only one awake. So good job. Good job there. Any of the blood doesn't really register. None of the scares register. It just ends up okay, we're trying to go bonkers and we're not really being bonkers. I don't know. That hospital scene, though, she ends up basically getting Alma, and in a standoff between Henry and Herr Koenig, where they are basically going to try to shoot, because Henry doesn't want Alma to get out, and Herr Koenig says, no, you need to let her out. And then Alma does her sound thing, because she's a cuckoo lady, a cuckoo girl. And basically they both just whatever. Stuff happens, and then Hunter Schafer passes out outside the hospital. And then Ed shows back up. Ed actually didn't die. There was one little scene where Ed actually was okay somehow. And they're driving away. Okay, I guess. The trailer made it look fun. It seemed like it was a good idea at first. Yeah, Cuckoo is just kind of not good. Not good. That's really all I have to say right there. Anyway, so yeah, F. I'm sorry, F. It's just not good. It probably gets like maybe a 3.5 to a 4 out of 10, if we're being honest. But it's not good. I'm sorry. It's pretty goddamn dull. So agree, disagree what I said, like, share, subscribe, Twitter handle in the description. I'm John Rickland. I'll see you soon.